Hello, I'm Pastor Tim Holscher. Thank you for joining me. Continuing to look here in Romans 8:29, in the following verse, there's a lot of material here, and I want to do justice to some of this because Paul's purpose at this point is to encourage us that God is going to finish what he began and to see that God has a purpose in what he's doing. And that despite the fact that we have the sin nature, that sometimes because we struggle with it and we groan because we just are so frustrated, that God assures us he is going to conform us. He is going to finish what he started, and we will not ever be separated from his love. And with that in mind, as he's looking at this, he says that, and we saw foreknowledge, and we've referred to predestination previously, what those two are involved. Foreknowledge, we looked at, you can look at it in yesterday's video. And then this word predestined, having the idea not just where you're going down the road, but also if you stop and think about the path, the process of getting there, the boundaries in which you're confined. And the purpose of being predestined is that we should be conformed to the image of his Son. And this word conformed, Paul uses it in two times, once here and once in Philippians 3:21, where he says that he will then transform or transfigure this body of limitation, change its way that it is, what it expresses, its scenery, as it were, transform it. And it's a humble body, so he's going to transform this humble body so that it is conformed to his body of glory. And so Christ has, in the present time, a glorified body that has a lot of things that it is capable of doing, but it is still a physical body. It's still a real body, but it's not humble at the present time. It's not limited like our present bodies are. And so we're going to be conformed to be like that. Now we'll go back over to Romans 8. So we're going to be conformed to the image of the Son. So let's take a look here at what he means by image. And there's quite a few passages in the New Testament that use image and use it in probably, we might say, a variety of ways. But in Romans 1:23, we see that people at a time in the past, they exchanged or changed the glory of the Net Bible is immortal, but it's the incorruptible, the God that cannot break down or decay or change, alter in that way, so that it's like to the image resembling corruptible man, and birds and four-footed things and reptiles. So in other words, it's idolatry. They took this incorruptible God that is not a physical being, it is not a man, and they tried to represent that God with corruptible creatures. By the way, it's a good place to demonstrate God's not a man and he doesn't exist in a physical body. Okay? And so that's an aspect of image that we have here. If we fast forward over to 1 Corinthians 15, it reminds us that we have borne or carried the image of the dusty, the man of dust. In the Old Testament, we have the statement that, that we come from the earth, we come from the dirt, the dust, and we return to the dust. In fact, that was part of the curse in Genesis 3, that Adam was going to eat from the fruit of the ground, from his labor, from the sweat of his brow, laboring in the ground, until he would return to the dust from which he was taken. So we have borne the image of the dusty. That's a sin. It's talking about this physical body here. And we will bear the image of the heavenly. Now, that does not mean that Jesus Christ doesn't have a real body. It's just not this unglorious body of dust. It's a humble body, as we saw over in Philippians chapter 1. So if you put both of these two things together here, when we're talking about being conformed, and we saw an example of that in Philippians chapter 3, that it's conforming this humble body like to his, and then looking at two examples of image, one in Romans 1 and then one in 1 Corinthians 15, where it is looking in that regard at both of those, looking at some sort of an outward image, some sort of an outward appearance that you're making. What is it that he's saying that is going to change? What is that God's purpose? To be conformed to the image of his Son. And what image of that is? Are we going to be made God? No. Are we going to be made little gods? No. I believe when he's talking about the image here, he's talking about the image of the Son. He's referring to his physical glory, which is exactly what Paul said over there in Philippians chapter 3. where he said that this humble body is going to be made like to his body of glory. I think it's important for us to understand this, because if we go back up here in the context, what is it that we're groaning in? Well, the creation is groaning, and it says we ourselves in verse 23, we ourselves are groaning. And what are we doing? We're eagerly awaiting the adoption, or the placement of sons, the redemption of our bodies. See, it has to do with the limitations of this present body, this present existence in which the sin nature is still present. And we're looking forward to a time in the future in which the sin nature will not be present. That's something to look forward to, when this really will be changed. See, in Christ right now, at the Father's right hand, you and I have died with Christ to the sin nature. We've been buried with him, and we've been raised with him. We've looked at those back in Romans chapter 6. We now have this life in Christ Jesus, Romans 8:2, and the Spirit leads us to that life. That's on a practical level how we experience some of our future right now. But we also have times when we don't experience that, because we choose to operate in the realm of this sinful nature with regard that still exists within us. And we are frustrated, and it causes us to groan even more, because I thought I was making progress, and then look at what I just did and how I acted, and we get frustrated. And this passage here is one of those many passages in the New Testament that also encourages us not only to be remembering who we are in Christ, but to be looking forward to the fact that Christ is returning, and he could come back today. This could be the day that he returns for us. And today could be the day that we would see him as he is, and this would be changed. And one of the things that would be changed, it would be made like to his body. We would bear the image of the Son in that regard. And as we bear the image of the Son, stop and understand that. We would bear the image of, the image of the Son. We would not have a presence of the sin nature. Now, the Son never had a sin nature. He's always been pure, always been completely holy, always been completely set apart in his nature. But he also has a glorified nature, and he does have a real human nature. And when we are like him, we won't have a sinful nature. And that's something to look forward to. Something to plug into your thinking as you go through the day. And maybe your day's great. Maybe you're having a good day. You should be doing this then too. Maybe it's a day you're groaning. Whether it's a day that you're rejoicing or a day that you're groaning, you can have a good day in the Lord. Not just a good day because, everything goes well for me and I didn't have problems today. Sometimes those are the days we get spiritually lazy, but a day in which we can set our minds forward and say, today could be the day that my Lord could return for us, and we will be changed, and I will be like him. And look forward to that. Be encouraged by that. And when you stop and you think about that, whether it's a good day or a day in which you're groaning and you're dealing with frustrations, or maybe groaning because you're physically pained, whatever it might be, those are the days. With that kind of an attitude, set on who you are in Christ and set focused also towards the future, that you as a believer can have a good day in the Lord. Thank you for joining me.